What's up, everybody? Welcome to a jam-packed episode of Doubling Down here on Trust the Profits. My name is Colin, Sheehan, and I am your host of the show, Doubling Down, where we look at a daily double. Usually each episode, I do one daily double, but in this episode today, you're going to get two daily doubles, one for Turfway Park, one for the fairgrounds and the Louisiana Derby. So let's dive right into it.
Trust the Profits is proud to be sponsored by Game of Silks. Go to silks.io to get in the game. Real ownership, real races, real rewards.
That's right. We've been on a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back as the Kentucky Derby prep races really start to heat up as we start to give out 100 points to the winners. Basically, win and you're in races start this weekend, obviously at the fairgrounds with the Louisiana Derby. That's another way to signify that we're getting closer. These races start to have the word Derby in them. So we get the Louisiana Derby. Of course, we are supported here by the Game of Silks, and I have three horses racing this weekend, including the speedy one kicking it off on Friday, and I have a horse running at the Turfway Park race 6, the number 8 on Saturday, and another horse, I believe, running at Fairgrounds on Sunday. I have to go back and double check, but the Game of Silks, you can check it out at silks.io. It's so much fun to have some skin in the game with horses, especially on a big weekend such as this. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to do two daily doubles for you here this week, and we are going to start at Turfway Park with race 11. This is the Bourbonnette Oaks. This race is giving out 50 points to the winner on the trail to the Kentucky Oaks, 50 for first, 25 for second, 15 for third, and so on. I also love seeing here, as you look at the field, I'm noticing a lot more horses that are owned by actual owners in the Game of Silks. So I looked back over the last couple of weeks. You had 4, 5, 6 horses in these big races that were not owned. We're actually getting into races now as the series for both the Oaks and the Derby goes along, and you've got more horses being owned by the Game of Silks. So shout out to all of them who are looking to pick up some points. It's a $3,000 Silks reward. It's 1% of the $300,000 purse. Very exciting. Let's take a look at the field here. I had a tough time. You have 4 horses trying the synthetic for the first time. I looked at the number 2 here, Winnable. This was a horse sired by Justify. The dam was unraced. The only horse this dam has is actually Winnable. Going a mile and breaking the maiden. First time out, February 21st at Turfway. You can see the note there cleared off impressively. This was in a maiden special weight, $70,000 for Ken McPeak, getting a Brisnet speed figure of 81. Saratoga Secret, a horse that you expect to be closing late, obviously in that Martha Washington last time out finished 22 lengths behind at Oaklawn. That was on a sloppy track, but this horse has been working out pretty well recently down at Oaklawn Park. Max's Superfly is a horse that I had a lot of interest in. This is the number 4, going off at 4-1. You can see on the left side, this horse has primarily been racing at Turfway Park. I have my arrow up there for your increasing Brisnet speed figures. Curious if this horse might need the lead. Obviously, the 2 victories that this horse has were both races in which he was able to get to the front, and he hasn't been able to do that in his other 3 races. However, if you look at that race on December 9th, he did show the ability to pass some horses late, just didn't get there and was actually blocked in the stretch and had to re-rally. So jury's still out if he actually needs the lead. I was intrigued at using Max's Superfly. The maiden $40,000 special weight's a little bit low, allowance $50,000. I was close to using Max's Superfly, but I might end up singling in this race, and we'll get to that horse in a minute. Moving on up, I think, is certainly interesting. This is a horse that can absolutely rate, had some success on the turf, and then obviously came to the synthetic, going a mile in the 16th at Gulfstream, and won a victory going in an optional claimer for $35,000. Out of the Safi Joseph barn with Adam Beseja up. Interesting, but not enough for me there. As you go to the outside, you have the number 8 and the number 9. The number 8, Pink Polka Dots, is going to be showing some early speed. If what Pink Polka Dots did on the turf translates over to the synthetic, the distance doesn't seem to be an issue. As you can see there, the dam has an average winning distance of 8.5. With Dynaformer, I love a horse on the turf, absolutely, with Dynaformer on there. But this isn't on the turf. This is going to be on the synthetic. Usually you may be able to see a little bit of a translation between the two. Maybe this horse needs the lead. Very impressive getting out to the front. And I can't blame anybody using the 8 here, Pink Polka Dots. You Know Nothing will be a horse that's certainly coming from off the pace. However, Alpine Princess is a horse that was cross-entered at the Fairground Oaks, was 8-1 in the morning line in that race. Brad Cox decides to take Alpine Princess to Turfway, and this horse becomes the 2-1 favorite here in the Bourbonnais Oaks. You can see on the top right there, I had written down 1 and 4, but as I started to go through this, I think that Alpine Princess is by far the class of the field, shown the ability to both go to the front and take a race wire to wire, like you see two back. Also has the ability, like in that allowance race at Churchill, to rate. And also in the maiden special weight up at Saratoga, was able to rate as well. I think you can give Alpine Princess the excuse of last time out stepping into a grade 2, being first off of the layoff, first as the 3-year-old season. Hopefully this second time start of the year is going to be enough for Alpine Princess. You can see on Classic Empire, the horse is hitting at 16% with horses running over the synthetic by Classic Empire, so not too shabby there either. Using Brisnet Prime Power, 6-point lead for Alpine Princess at the top of average class for the last 3 and current class. And like I said, Alpine Princess to me was the class in this race. And so I'm going to single Alpine Princess. We move on to the second leg of the daily double. And this is the Jeff Ruby Stakes being run at Turfway Park. Again, as I mentioned, you have a lot of horses here. Only 2 of them are not owned in the Game of Silks. That is the 3 Lucky Jeremy and the 8 Otello. Otello, of course, had ran down at Gulfstream Park in the Holy Bull. We'll get to Otello and we'll get right into the speed and the pace of this race, because I think you've got what appears on paper to be a lot of speed up front. You could see Baytown Chatterbox gets an EP7, West Saratoga an EP7, Lucky Jeremy an EP8, and Northern Flame with the E5 designation, to me, makes it look like you might get a little bit of a quick pace up front, but I don't know that you have as much when you actually get into the race that you see there. However, one that I am certainly interested in is Lucky Jeremy. I think Lucky Jeremy is going to be the horse that's going to get to the front, breaking out of the 3-hole. This is the horse that finished 3rd in the Grade 3 Sunland Derby behind Stronghold. But interesting to note, look at the highlighted workouts on the bottom. This horse has actually been working out at Turfway Park and pretty impressively as well in November and through December and January before going out to the Sunland Derby. This is the horse that's going to be on the front end, and of the early speed, Lucky Jeremy is one that I am going to include on my ticket. One horse that I'm not going to include on my ticket, who I was very intrigued by, is Woodcourt. And you can see my notes here. Red to me is usually something that I signify as bad. Green I use for turf, teal for all weather or synthetic surfaces, and brown for the dirt. As I was going through and highlighting the wins for Woodcourt, I noticed I was using a lot of different colors. Woodcourt's won on a turf track at Churchill, the synthetic at Turfway, the dirt at Oaklawn. But if you look at my red, look at the mile and the 16th races, a 7th place finish and a 4th place finish, 6 lengths behind Timberlake. Of course, Timberlake's, as many would consider, at the very top of the 3-year-old crop. So you could probably make some excuses there. Of course, a speed figure of 90. He's not facing a horse like Timberlake in here. But to me, it was very good horse there in the red, but also the distance became a question mark for me, and that's why I ultimately decided to leave Woodcourt off my ticket. Absolutely can't disagree with you if you decide to leave him on. Otello is a horse sired by Colin, who always gathers my attention. And you can see the late pace that I circled there. I had mentioned that you're probably going to have maybe some speed up front. So I'm going to want some of the closers. You know, a horse sired by Colin is going to get the distance. And shout out to Matt DeSantis, who tweeted out about Isabella Sings being a very impressive turf router. And you see there highlighted on the right the average winning distance of 7.6 and 7.5. In red, I put on that last start, the note was bumped at the start. I didn't see that in looking back at the replay, so I'm not necessarily sure that you can attribute the 6th place finish to being bumped at the start, but perhaps just didn't take to the Gulfstream dirt that day. And hopefully Otello, with the pace setup here, can get there. He's going to be on my ticket, as is Seize the Gray. Seize the Gray is a $300,000 purchase sired by Arrogate. Smart Shopping is the dam. This is the only colt. Smart Shopping actually has 3 fillies. I'm hoping that the second off the layoff here, after Seize the Gray, comes off the layoff and puts up a 92 speed figure. First time as a 3-year-old after a pretty lengthy time off. I'm hoping that that is where the horse is starting as a 3-year-old and stepping forward. Hopefully that's not the best. And if you get that step forward, Seize the Gray is going to be intriguing. Of course, any horses owned by My Racehorse are going to take a lot more money maybe than they should. You can also look at the Lasix last time out. Was that possibly a reason that Seize the Gray took that step forward? Endlessly, this is a horse that me and Sean Patrick Nolan talked about on August 1st. Because if you look back at that July 30th debut, Sean said to me, you've got to watch this horse who just debuted out at Del Mar. And it was, of course, this horse Endlessly, who's just really exciting. And the composure and ability that Endlessly showed that first time out, bursting between horses to get to the victory, and then has really done nothing wrong in following that up. You can always draw a line through Breeders' Cup juvenile races, finishing 8th. And if you do, this horse is 4 for 4, including a win not only over the turf surfaces, but in the synthetic out at Golden Gate. Endlessly is your 5-2 favorite, sired by Oscar Performance, a horse that you absolutely want to keep on your ticket. And look at that, just like Alpine Princess, Endlessly sweeps across the top and is your top horse for current class, average class of the last 3, and a 5-point spread on your prime power. So where do we end up with my ticket? It's only going to cost you $4 for Turfway this Saturday. We're going to single Alpine Princess and then go with the 3, 8, 9, and 10 in leg 2. Let's turn our attentions to the fairgrounds, where we have the Louisiana Derby and the Fairground Oaks, which will be the next daily double that we put together. You have a Silks reward of $4,000 for the Fairground Oaks. Originally a field of 8 gets shrunk down to a field of 7 with the scratch of 3 Alpine Princess, who we just talked about because she was cross-entered over at Turfway. And I think to start, you certainly have to take a look at the 5 and the 6. That's Tarifa and Intricate. Tarifa out of the Brad Cox barn is your 8-5 morning line favorite with Intricate. These horses ran 1-2 in your Rachel Alexandra on February 17th over a sloppy track going a mile and a 16th. You figured neither of them are going to have issues with the distance. Both of them have the ability to kind of stalk and track leaders, which is obviously a nice advantage to have. And I think Tarifa, having the benefit of that January 20th first race in which she won that optional claimer going a mile and 70 at Fairgrounds, had the benefit. And so therefore, I actually am intrigued by the number 1, Vivi's Dream, for a price at 8-1. Vivi's Dream came back off the layoff and finished 5th in that Rachel Alexandra race. But I think some of the talent that Vivi's Dream showed last year, including 2 Brisnet speed figures of 93 and a 94 in the Alcibiades, finishing 2nd behind Candide, makes me believe that there's more to Vivi's Dream than what you saw in the Rachel Alexandra. These horses here at 8-5 and 2-1 are superb. I wouldn't be surprised if they win, and if they beat me, so be it. I'm going to use VV's Dream with the 8-1 morning line as a possible price to get through this first leg. I am also going to include the number 7, Our Pretty Woman, who's a $900,000 Keeneland September sale purchase, sired by Medagliadora out of a Dazzletown dam with Spitestown, who obviously always seems to bring up some speed out of horses, and you're getting the distance from Medagliadoro. This horse has raced twice over the sloppy track, including at Fairgrounds on February 17th, where she went wire to wire, fairly easy on the lead, as you can see with the -5 and the -2 in the middle there with the first call and second call. So we're taking a shot. Joel Rosario gets aboard again, and maybe can be the one that either sets this up nicely for VV's Dream and maybe making it hard for the 4 and the 5. But I'm going to take a shot with the Steve Asmussen trained Our Pretty Woman. So I'm going to go 1 and 7 here in the first leg at Fairgrounds. Intricate, of course, as I mentioned, like Alpine Princess in the race in the Bourbonnette Oaks, sweeps across the top just like Endlessly did. Current class 118. That's 3 better than Tarifa. Intricate and VV's Dream and Tarifa on the prime power numbers are all very close. So why not take the one that I assume is going to have a better price out of those 3 and try to get through. The big race on Saturday, the Louisiana Derby, has a Silks purse of $10,560. Not too shabby. You can see there VIP Silks, the owner of Track Phantom, Real Men Violin, Next Level. It's great to see a lot of names here who you'll notice in the Discord for Game of Silks. So jump on in and check it out. Antiquarium is a horse owned by Alpha Dragon Layer, who's a big favorite of our own Sean Patrick Nolan. A quick look at your pace setup. Not as much as maybe we're intrigued and used to seeing. Of course, Track Phantom is a horse that's gone gate to the front in all of his races and has been able to hold on for most of them, aside from us last time out against Sierra Leone. But you'll expect to see some speed from Hall of Fame, Next Level, and Antiquarium. Prime Power has Track Phantom on top with Catching Freedom. Agate Road ends up skipping the race at Turfway. It was cross-entered and moves into the race here at the Fairgrounds. An interesting move for a horse that's had some success over the turf. Catching Freedom is going off at 4-1. This is his second start as it's actually his third start as a 3-year-old, but it's his second off the layoff, finishing 3rd in that aforementioned race with Sierra Leone and Track Phantom. You can see the speed figures there hovering right around 90 for the last 3. This horse is out of the Brad Cox barn. And one thing that I love to tease Keith on and Michael here on the channel, because they absolutely love this horse. And this horse is getting a lot of love and a lot of attention in Twitterverse and in the comments section. A lot of people are expecting Catching Freedom to take a big step forward. A horse who Sean Patrick Nolan and Keith both have future Derby bets on from a while ago. So we can understand their interests. What I find interesting is the jockey changes just keep happening with Catching Freedom, going from Florent Giroux to Christian Torres to Luis Saez, and now Flavian Prat's going to jump aboard here for the race. This horse likes to come from off the pace, right? And we just showed you the pace setup with Brisnet. Only had a few horses with the designation of being forwardly placed. Now, of course, when you get horses like Track Phantom going at it, possibly with a horse like Hall of Fame, you don't need many to get it hot up front, but you might want more if you're going to be interested in a horse like Catching Freedom. I'm going to pass on Catching Freedom. I am going to use Agate Road. I think it's interesting here that Todd Pletcher sends this horse here when I thought that the race over at Turfway set up a little bit better for him. This horse, last race set up very nicely in the Sam F. Davis at Tampa. That was the first time Agate Road was trying the dirt, aside from that race that came off the turf at Saratoga when he just missed actually breaking the maiden, then was moved to the turf, including a 5th place finish in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. losing by 2.5 lengths, comes back with a little bit less stellar first run here, January 6th at Gulfstream on the turf. And then when he goes to Tampa, although finished second for first time on the dirt, 91 speed figure. I think that's maybe what's jumping out and expecting Putcher to put this horse back on the dirt because they think something is here. His horse had a really late gain in that Sam F. Davis, was never going to get to No More Time, but made a nice big move. But again, does the pace set up? This is more of a trainer move for me. That's the play that I'm going with on Agate Road. The other two horses that I'm interested in, yes, I'm going to use Track Phantom. Track Phantom's been a horse that I've been high on since before the Gun Runner. This horse has shown a ton of early speed, just getting caught in the Risen Star over that sloppy track. Can he take them wire to wire again at going 1 1/8? Possibly. I don't think you have a horse closing as well as Sierra Leone has shown the ability to. We mentioned that there doesn't seem to be a ton of pace on paper. So I will use Track Phantom with Joel Rosario, but I'm also going to use your number 11 here, your 8-1 Tuscan Gold, a horse sired by Medaglio d'Oro, with Colin on the dam side. This horse is a large frame and is a late developing horse who has shown the ability to come off the pace in that maiden special weight victory at Gulfstream Park with an 89 up. And hey, look at that first race. Sierra Leone is who beat Tuscan Gold in this horse's first appearance. I don't think the distance will be a problem. I think you're going to get some good value. And the question is just, as far as late developing is concerned, are we still going to need to give Tuscan Gold more time? This is a $600,000 purchase. I think the talent's there, and I'm open to giving a horse like this a shot in a big race. I am going to use number 2 Hall of Fame. You're getting 8-1, and that's the reason I'm including Hall of Fame. Flag Day, Gun Runner, distance won't be a problem. I know the Risen Star was a disappointment. The horse took a lot of money there after that 10-length victory at Fairgrounds on January 20th. And that was, as expected, the reason that people were very drawn to Hall of Fame last time. I'm hoping that Hall of Fame has what he displayed in that January 20th race as far as talent is concerned. And maybe this is a nice place to strike while the iron is hot because of the value that you might be getting as others move towards a horse like Catching Freedom, move towards a horse like Track Phantom. And maybe Hall of Fame here is a really talented horse where you're going to be able to get a price. So for your Fairgrounds daily double ticket, I'm going to go 1-7 with the 2, 4, 11, and 12. That ticket will cost you $8. And so thank you so much for joining me here on Doubling Down as we run through 2 Doubling Down tickets. Never easy to talk by myself. I love having guests. We'll get guests on for sure next week as we look towards the Florida Derby, the Arkansas Derby, and as we make our way into the first Saturday in May. If you have any questions on Game of Silks, please don't hesitate to ask. Check me out on Twitter at CSheehan45. And for both of these daily double tickets, please include them in the comments so we can keep track of all of your guesses here on this weekend. Until next time, good luck to all of you. I'm Colin Sheehan. Please like and subscribe.